Ensure the personalized attention you deserve with the luxury vacation package from Delta Vacations and the lifestyle collection featuring luxury. You'll fly in the comfort of first class, receive VIP transfers to a luxurious hotel, and earn up to 7,500 bonus miles in addition to credited flight miles with the Sky Miles program. For reservations and information, visit deltavacations.com or contact a travel agent.
We couldn't be more excited. We are in cake heaven.
Heaven, and in Dallas everything is bigger, but we have to say that in Liverpool it's even bigger than Dallas. We are here with David from David's Cakes, and it's amazing the work that this gentleman does for wedding cakes. Cupcakes, you name it, he's got it all. And we're here today to talk to David about the architectural wonders of royal wedding cakes, the large structures, not just the three-tiered stacked wedding cakes that we're used to seeing in the United States. So, good morning, David.
Good morning, sir.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Great to meet you.
Likewise.
This cake is amazing.
It's taller than Bruce.
It's taller than me. I love it. Can I take it with?
So what sort of client comes into our shop? Very interesting, right? Lots of different types of people with lots of different sort of tastes. If you have a little look over here, we've got these very ornate style cakes with this string work. So a client who's after something very royal, I guess, looking and lavish and grand, etc. The chocolate cake at the back, very interesting. And this is serious, that every guy who stops at the window always looks at this cake. And we sort of came to a conclusion that a lot of our cakes have got like a masculine and a feminine sort of look to them. And it is very interesting. A lot of guys find that like very strong and powerful sort of looking cake. If it was done as a chocolate cake, obviously, in reality, it would have a stainless steel structure scenario inside. We'd need cooling fans on it to stop everything melting, and we would have to decorate that on location. The cake next to it with all the lace work, string work, you know, there again a very lavish style. Now this Disco Diva cake in the background here, right, inspired by Busby Berkeley films.
Sure.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah. And basically watching Field Girl, one of his movies, and this girl came out and she had feathers and spinning disco balls on her head, on her outfit, and Ed and I said, that's a cake. And that was the inspiration behind that. And obviously a lot of younger, you know, girls very into fashion, etc., identify with that sort of crazy cake, if you want to call it that. Then we've got the cupcakes here. We actually fill and top our cupcakes, and the cupcake phenomena really has only arrived in the UK, I'd say, in the last 18 months, 2 years. So it's becoming a very, very popular thing, but obviously, you know, we have heat waves and hot weather and all sorts of things to consider, so we do advise a client on air conditioning and things like that. This type of cake, this just sort of as a bit of inspiration, but from our interest on Facebook, a lot of the Italian friends we've got find this very inspiring, you know, so it's very interesting that different types of countries, I guess, as we're finding through our Facebook people, like different styles of cakes that we're into. We've got our revolving carousel here, a little bit of magic going on there, and the big cakes at the back. This type of icing is the royal icing coated cake, but it's marbled with different tones of icing, and it's not perfect, and it's intentionally not perfect. So it's got more of a rustic sort of look to it. Whereas the cake next to it, the lights and the spinning cherubs, and the actual windows are made of sugar. There again, that's a real lavish and ornate style cake.
David, in your displays we're seeing beautiful color. Can you tell us a little bit more about your use of color in cakes?
Yeah, I personally love putting lots of colour on some cakes, you know, and getting inspired by culture and fashion and what's out there. And we've got this cake here that's, you know, from our point of view, we looked at this as an Asian influence, you know, for an Indian style wedding. And then obviously the cake at the back is an overgrown rose garden, very bright rather than vibrant. And I think the thing is just to let people see what can be done. And, you know, anything goes, and there's no rules, there's no regulations. And if a client comes in and is feeling a bit adventurous, well, it's okay to be adventurous and let it rip, you know.
How long would it take to create a cake like the wildflower garden?
A long, long time, yeah. I mean, these are giant cakes. We would have to create them at the venue, and we'd need at least a week there, and then obviously all the flowers would be made in advance. But cakes like this would be best decorated on site.
So would you actually bake the cake at the site, or just assemble?
Yeah, we'd assemble it at the site.
Wow.
And decorate it on location. I mean, this has been palette knife painted, so like you do oil painting, it's the same application of royal icing like it's paint.
Wow.
And it's free. What's the word?
Free flow?
Free hand. Yeah. Nothing was planned, it just happened at the moment, you know. So I think that's a great way with cakes sometimes, that you can just express it and let it out.
It's a true art form.
Yeah.
It's exquisite.
Whereas something like this really does have to be planned and the design, whereas that you can just go off on one.
David's going to show us how he makes his amazing flowers, and apparently he can do it in record time, so let's see.
Okay, here we go. Right, there's some fondant icing. Okay, and you pinch it. Okay. And then, as I'm doing this, I'm just pinching the edge. And then left over the right. And roll up the top section.
Oh.
And then we can just keep building it up.
That's amazing.
Hang on. So, for a royal wedding cake, you'd need hundreds of these.
It's more than hundreds, isn't it?
Yeah, probably. So every waking moment, just sitting there, thinking, oh, I'll make some flowers. That's a quick idea.
Wow.
No cutters, no nothing. And then just nick the end off there like that. And you just leave
And
it to
that's your
dry.
flower.
Wow.
That's amazing. Very cool.
We've been talking cakes with the mastermind, and now we're actually going to be tasting some cake, which is very exciting for us. We've talked about architecture of cakes, we've talked about the different types of cakes, so now we're going to actually talk about what is on the inside of these masterpieces.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very important thing as far as we're concerned about what it actually tastes like. Traditionally, fruitcake is the main thing that we do with cakes. Obviously, during the last 2-3 years, sponge cakes from your country have influenced us all over here, and we're all like, we want sponge wedding cakes, which are great, but can be a bit impractical with the hot weather and with large structures.
So we've been talking a little bit about fruitcake. Now, when you're doing the large architectural masterpieces, does that help with the fact that it takes a week to decorate those cakes?
Well, yeah, very much so, yeah, because if you think about it, these are very perishable sponge cakes. So it would technically be stale if you chose to use a sponge cake 2 weeks before. But also with the soft fillings inside, it's making the structure, vulnerable.
Right.
So fruitcake is obviously more ideal because it's compact, it's solid, and it will hold the structural supports in the cake. But might be everyone's cup of tea. So you reach a bit of a dilemma. What can the client have? If they come in here wanting a sponge wedding cake and they've set their heart on a sponge wedding cake, but they want one of these giant structures, I tell them the truth. And I say, we can do it all fruit for you, or a fruit base maybe, or even that little slice we mentioned earlier. Have that as a sponge cake, but have the main structure as fruit. And if they're insistent, no way, we can do it as a display cake and supply the cakes for cutting. Because you've got to think of the hot weather. You've got to think of if it's in a marquee, the marquee could be wobbly in the cake, you know, the floor area. There's a lot of things to think about. And, you know, 99% of clients are very happy with that. They'd rather us tell them than not tell them. Take their commission and then them bring us up the following week saying, my cake collapsed. You never told me. So we've got to be honest with people. And everyone who comes here is concerned about what it tastes like. So I'm leading up to asking you if you'd like to taste it.
Yes, we would.
How many different recipes do you have for the fruitcake?
Well, we just use one recipe.
You have one recipe?
Taste it, yeah. And it's a firm cake, but the essential is that it's moist and it's not like cardboard.
It's very moist, actually.
And there's alcohol in there.
Yeah, it's good.
It's
very good.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is Belgian marzipan, which there again is a light marzipan. It's not full of artificial flavours.
Right.
It's all natural, you know.
This is very unlike the fruitcake we're used to for generally the holidays is what we end up having fruitcake for in the States.
This is very, very good.
Thank you.
Very good.
Sure. Now, this cake's being served out of the fridge. So at the moment it's lovely and firm, but if you think about a 90-degree hot day in the summer, it could be more vulnerable. So this is obviously why that is more ideal.
Are a lot of the wedding receptions in the UK outdoors, more so than in hotels?
Well, it's both. Yeah, but a lot of venues are now building like permanent marquees. And there again, they mightn't be on perfect level ground. So I mean, when we go to set up one of those giant cakes, we can be up to 2 to 3 hours, spirit level in the floor area. And so, you know, depending on the complexity of the cake, we might actually finish it there on location as well.
I love all the terminology over here. For those back in the States, marquee means tent.
Yeah, okay.
So tell us about the other cake we're sampling.
These are what we class as our dessert fillings.
Very good.
Because what's becoming more popular as well is the cake is actually getting eaten after the main meal. So it's got to taste what you'd expect after a meal and not be stodgy. It's very soft and moist, etc.
Very much so.
Good.
And you'll now understand why that possibly could be quite vulnerable inside a
It's very
giant
light.
structure.
Very, very light.
And the, you know,
It's
the same
soft.
with the chocolate ones. So it's one of them, you know. Some clients say they're not worried about what it tastes like, and then we give them a piece of cake, and then they're like,
Oh, I'd like to have this. Yes, actually taste does matter. So do you do a lot of chocolate cake?
Yeah, we advertise, if you like, that we've got 16 types of different fillings and toppings available, but most clients go for a safe bet, as we call it, because if you're feeding all your guests and you've picked choc and orange, and people aren't into choc and orange, your cake isn't going to get eaten, unless you want to say it's mine. You're not having any. So these are the most popular fillings that we do, what we've selected to present to you today.
And this chocolate one is, what type is this chocolate?
It's what we call our double chocolate cake,
Okay.
double fudge chocolate cake, and it's got actual chocolate in there, and just a combination of all sorts of secrets.
It's divine. It's divine.
I'm loving the fruitcake.
I love it all. Love it all.
Good. And I think that's the thing. A lot of people say, "I'm not into fruitcake," but it's got this stereotypical approach that it's hard and dry.
Right. And very much not the case.
It's not.
No.
Not at all.
Yeah, and you know, I was not just saying about our fruitcakes lovely and moist. I think if wedding cake's made correctly as a fruitcake, it will be like that. So it's a bit of a myth that needs.
I was
to be
going to say,
changed,
if it's made right.
Yeah.
And David knows how to make it right.
Okay, David, so we're here to cover the royal wedding, and we know that you've had a couple of royal weddings in your past. Can you tell us a little bit about the details?
Yeah, it's a very exciting time. In 1986, we created the cake, Prince Andrew and Miss Sarah Ferguson, and in 1999, for Prince Edward and Miss Sophie Rhys-Jones. And a very challenging time creatively and personally, you know, to deal with. You know, we're going to make a cake for.
It's a big deal.
And it really is, you know. And
Did you even know where to begin? Was it just like, how do I start this whole process?
When the announcement gets made, it's when all of a sudden you're getting to really know about these people. But you're not really getting to know about them. It's the speculation of what you see, what they like, what they're wearing, the types of things that they're into.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a case of that when the cakes are getting designed, thinking of all these things through. It's like the first cake was being presented in Buckingham Palace. So I wanted to create something very grand, lavish, and beautiful that would go in the surroundings with all the chandeliers, and it would complement the actual, the building. And then thinking about the bride, what she might have been wearing,
because you don't know.
So they give you no inkling
No.
whatsoever, not even flowers, nothing. It's
No. So it's guesswork really, but it's a case of following your heart and getting to know the couple as best you can perceive them being. If you like. So that cake in '86 was very tall. I think it was about 8 foot tall, and it was white and lavish ornate piping on it. But we did a cascade of roses, fresh flowers that were either side, which there again is similar to royal wedding cakes that were made hundreds of years ago.
I think King George VI, his wedding cake was like that.
I'm not sure.
With the flowers up and down the side.
Yeah, I mean, I took inspiration from that Queen Mary's cake and other royal wedding cakes I'd seen, obviously, because we do look at other ideas, but not replicate it, just to get a mood of the flavour of the way,
the essence.
Style. Yeah, exactly.
Are there certain requirements that they give you, that it needs to be so tall, or
No.
has to have certain flowers, or anything like that?
Sorry to interrupt. We created it from here, if you like, and I just thought royal, big, grand, power. All the things that it suggests when you think of a king and a queen.
Right.
And that was the inspiration. Let's make a giant cake. And we actually went to Buckingham Palace when no one could ever visit the palace.
Oh, that's right.
Because it's only recent times,
Right.
isn't it? And we got led through into this, what was the blue room, and the tables were about this high.
Okay, so it was tall to start with.
Yeah, up the ladder.
I love it.
Yeah.
And there again, you have a schedule. You've got to get there at a certain time. If you're late, it's not acceptable. And you've only got like 10, 15 minutes.
Wow.
20 minutes maybe.
To do the setup.
Yeah. So, it's a case of going in there, taking a bit of equipment, extra icing should there be a problem. But really, just getting so focused. And, we've got a job to do. Let's go and do it kind of thing,
So were you really given 15 minutes to set the entire cake, or was it a little bit more?
Might have been a little bit longer.
But it felt like 15 seconds? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, it was like that. Now, the interesting thing with Edward and Sophie's cake, it was at Windsor Castle. So if you look at the cake we created for them, it was very Gothic.
Very different.
Very different.
And that was the inspiration behind the cake, that it was like a medieval setting, so the cake has got a medieval feel about it. And when it was set up actually in the castle, it looked like it had been there for hundreds of years, like everything else in there.
Interesting.
So it was a case of taking, there again, the mood, and Prince Edward was very much into his monarch history.
Yeah.
And we embraced that completely. And that was a real buzz when we saw Sophie's wedding dress, because it was almost like a Maid Marian style dress that she had.
Right.
And it was like, we feel we got this right. And the biggest buzz was when we're actually setting the cake up and the minutes are ticking away. The assistants came up and said, the Prince wants to meet you.
Oh, wow.
And we got led through back into the room where he was standing. And it was like,
What an honor for you.
Yeah, and we shook his hand and he actually said, that he was really impressed. And it was like, phew.
Oh, wow.
And then the biggest buzz, obviously, is we've got to drive away and hope it stays standing.
Sure.
Because this is the day of, it has to be done. And you've got like kings and queens and presidents and from all over the world's going to see this cake. And if it's on the floor when they walk in,
that's not good.
No, definitely not good. So when we created both these cakes, we created a replica which we basically used as our work base, and we got into
Sure.
the engineering, the structuring, etc. So we were 100% sure, well, 99.9% sure,
As sure as you could
as
be.
sure as you can be, that it wouldn't collapse, you know.
Wow.
And we actually left them both set upstairs there again for a week before. And the interesting thing is, you only really get notification up to 6 weeks before. For the
So
cake.
you're doing this in a really
Yeah.
tight time frame, and
So it's
obviously
like-
so much detail and so much pressure.
Yeah, and it's like 3 in the morning coming in and piping and, you know, 12, 15 hour days.
Wow.
It's the adrenaline rush then that keeps you going. And when it's delivered, you're like...
It's time to crash.
yeah. And then the beautiful thing is that we receive thank you letters, which we've got...
I saw that on the wall. That's so nice.
About the beginning. I didn't know we'd go to all that trouble, but, you know, we were so honoured to do it. And I think actually doing a royal wedding cake and getting accepted to do one really gave us confidence that, you know, if we can do this, we're confident with what we do. But we treat every client as if they are a king and
Right.
a queen or
Right.
prince and princess coming to our shop, and we give that attention to detail with everybody, from the drawing of the design right through to the final conclusion of the cake.
Clearly your clients come in and they fall in love with you. We can definitely
We
tell.
can see that. We
Yeah.
can see that.
Yeah, I mean, we love what we do with a passion.
And it definitely
Shows.
shows. I
It
mean,
definitely
your
shows.
cakes are
Yeah,
exquisite.
It is. It's a great thing, and there's no rules. That's the exciting thing, and I think we're embracing the past with the present, and it's a collision of everything really that's making it work.
I can see that. I
Yeah.
can see that. And I think what's really interesting about what you're doing is that you take everything into account for the cake. It's just not this one section or piece. It's the overall look and feel of
Yeah.
the cake, which
Yeah.
is just, it's stunning.
Yeah, the edibility factor of it kind of goes when we're creating it. Obviously, once we've prepared the interior of it and we're looking at the externals, you know, of it, it's not a cake at that point. It's a painting. It's a
Right.
picture, and the application of the piping, or you know, when we're palette knife painting or when we're coating it, it's all done with a love.
Is it? Well, they're a masterpiece. They're
Thank you.
absolute masterpieces. So, thank you so much for doing this with us. We
Wonderful
so
to meet you,
appreciate it.
sir.
We are delighted.
And, yeah,
Thank you,
and
David.
next time you want a cake, give me a ring.
We will. And it'll be fruitcake too. I can guarantee it. Thank you.